We'll be live in just a second. Sam is humble bragging. And we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. My name is Tony Vicinda. I'm Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP. We are a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard, and skincare alchemy in the Bardic College of Content Creation. Our hope here, because I had to think about it.
Doing it really natural this time, yeah. Tony.
I've been messing around with my pacing on it just to see what comes out for the last 2 months. Our hope here at Plus One EXP is to help amazing designers find great players who love their games, and amazing players find great designers whose games we can love. Sure, I'll include myself on that one this time. The way we're doing that tonight, and the way we're doing it all year long on the last Wednesday of the month, is sitting down with a designer to talk about making hard moves, making PbtA moves, but also exploring life and design by placing undue emphasis on one particular moment and calling that a move. And so today we have... what did I call you? PbtA point guard, Sam Roberts. Sam created a absolute banger. I think genre impactful, we'll call it. PbtA game called Escape from Dino Island in collaboration with Sam Tung about 5 years ago. I think the DNA can be traced to a lot of modern PbtA things, and I think it broke open the system for a lot of people in some really exciting ways. Sam is also a native of well, not native of Philadelphia. You are a dweller of Philadelphia.
Relatively recent transplant.
Yeah, transplant.
A lover of Philadelphia.
Yeah, I also never give this long of introductions, but apparently I'm just really excited to talk about you. Sam, for folks who may not be familiar with you, since you've withdrawn into the shadows for the last 3 years, only coming out from time to time, tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and if you want to be found online, where they can find you.
Okay. Sure. I'm Sam Roberts, and the first thing I should say is I co-designed Escape from Dino Island with my good friend and collaborator Sam Tung, who is also a stellar artist and did all the art for the book himself. So I'm happy to call myself the designer of Escape from Dino Island, but there's a very large Sam Tung size asterisk in that description. But a little about me. I'm from New York. But now I live in Philly. In between there, I spent 10 years in Los Angeles as a screenwriter. So that I think is a big part of like how I ended up here. And then I left that all behind and started designing games as I would consider myself a hobbyist game designer. And so I created Escape from Dino Island out of like a desire to make the game that I wanted to play at the time, and that Sam was running for. I mean, should I just get into like some of this stuff? I don't know. I feel like I'm doing an intro, but I want.
You talk as much as you want. I'm good at saying be quiet when I need to say it, but I don't feel the impulse yet.
So the story of Dino Island, Escape from Dino Island, which I can't call Dino Island because there's a board game, is that Sam and I had been playing together for a very long time. We were now living in different cities. He has a long time online game group, and they were talking about Sam is like a huge dinosaur nerd. Like not just like Jurassic Park, but like, you know, he loves all of the like the latest findings on how dinosaurs actually looked, and like deep in like the sort of dino illustration world. And so he just like always loved it. He's like, I want to run like a Jurassic Park game for my friends. There really isn't one. Like I'm just gonna use I'm gonna use Dungeon World, basically. And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, and this was back when we all loved Dungeon World, but I was like, Dungeon World is exactly the wrong game for this. Like, Dungeon World is a game where like everyone can fight everyone. The number one thing about Escape from Dino, or what became Escape from Dino Island, is like you can't fight the dinosaurs. You we should make a game where like the only moves you have are run and hide. And if you've seen Escape from Dino Island, you can see that the first two moves on the basic move sheet are in fact run and hide. And so you know, we started designing what we called jokingly the run and hide system for Escape from Dino Island, and it started off as like literally just a thing for him to play, and it was just gonna be a set of play sheets, and it evolved into something a little bit bigger, but not that much bigger. But it was really just something we did for fun. And then Zine Quest, the first Zine Quest came out. And I think for those of you who follow Zine Quest, it's become a very big moment. It's happening right now, and now it's called Zine Month. And there's a bunch of different channels where you can find really great zines, and there's a lot of really amazing polished work out there. But that first Zine Quest was like really a place where weirdos, first-time designers could just like make a little thing, and it really felt like the Wild West. And so for me, someone who had like lurked on gaming forums for a long time, but had mostly just been a person playing at home, mostly Dungeons and Dragons, but had a lot of interest in other indie games, and was trying to figure out how to like make that happen. We were like, let's just put it out there and see if people want to buy it. And so it was a nice like kick in the butt to actually produce a finished game and get it printed. And it turned out to be something that people liked, which is, you know, such an honor, and feels really good.
I'm super excited. Also, I dropped it in the chat, but if you're watching this later and you decide, hey, I also used to like Dungeon World, but I'd like a better game now, you can head over to http://link, http, those things are at the beginning, ttrpg.link/Stonetop, because Stonetop pre-sales are live over on the Plus One EXP site right now. This
wow, I teed that up so well, and I didn't even mean to. Stonetop rules. Stonetop's great. I'm so.
It is I caught it during Zine Quest the first time around, but had only gotten a digital of it, and then you and I started interacting because I had reached out and been like, hey, do you still have physicals? And you do, from that first print run. So if somebody wants one, they can reach out to you or find you walking around at a convention in Philadelphia, and you'll just give them one out of your backpack. But
that's true. I mean, like I said up front, I'm a you know, this is a hobby for me. It's something like my number one goal is to get the game into people's hands. And obviously if I make a little bit of extra money on the side, like that's great. I appreciate it. But if, you know, we have community copies up on our site all the time on our itch page. And yeah, if we're even remotely pals, I'll throw you a zine if I have one handy.
I've heard you also write custom moves for people.
That is true. If you're like my actual friend, or I know you at all, I will write a custom move. I'll even do it digitally. Like if you email me, I do like writing custom moves. The last one I made was for my friend Sarah, who I finally met in person at PAX this year, and it was a Spider-Man themed move. It was if you know the Sauron meme of like, but I don't want to.
You could cure cancer. I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
And so it was a move that basically lets pretty much anyone, the Dino in the game, you're a DM, you're a Dino Master. It lets the DM or any of the player characters basically, like if they can find a lab, they can start turning people into dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs can do funny things. But if you mess up, Spider-Man comes in and stops you. So and then I created a little custom opponent for like a custom enemy for Spider-Man, who has a bunch of funny little moves.
And you're from New York, so you've seen that happen.
Yeah, in real life.
Spider-Man. So, look, I can't tell you the number of times I've been saved by Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That was gritty. He just laughs at you.
Now, Aaron, you are a friend of Sam. You are a fan of Sam Roberts,
Mhm.
also too, but not exclusively for Dino Island. For the entire Sam oeuvre of existence, just Sam's way of being, right?
Yeah, I would say sorry to Sarah, especially, but Sam's our hottest guest so far on the show. And no, I don't know. What do you no, what are you asking? What are you getting to here?
I was just trying to pull you into the conversation a little bit.
Oh
more,
no, I'm good. I'm good back here.
I know.
No, my starting point is peril and safety moves. The game just divides basic moves into two big categories. We've seen other examples of that, night and day moves in Brindlewood games, but if we need a place to start, to me that's a great twist on games. Like, you don't have a list of moves that you can always do. You say you're setting maybe a position and an effect sort of thing.
Yeah.
And if somebody has not seen the book yet, I'm going to pop sections of it up on screen so you can screen cap it one thing at a time and scam a creator out of their community copy that you would have gone and downloaded anyways. It's got absolutely gorgeous Sam Tung art, and I will say, if you ever want Sam Tung to work on something, the real trick is to just pick one of Sam's special interests, and then when Sam's like, man, I wish I had more of a place to put all this art, you can be like, you're making a night game for us right now, Sam. We can just put more art in it, because that is what happened for Longsword. But Dino Island, they did the design work on some of the design work on, as well as the art. Absolutely gorgeous game. But yeah, I think there's
if I can just say one thing about that, because I think it's actually really interesting that you reminded me of something, which is, I think, like I mentioned this up front, but like I think the beauty of Sam and my collaboration, and part of the reason why I haven't released much else since Dino Island, is because like I have a lot of different ideas, and I'm always being pulled in a lot of different directions. And Aaron can vouch for this. I feel like every few days I'll like send you a DM and be like, okay, but what if it's cyberpunk superheroes? And then 2 days later it's like, what if it's fantasy but it's a skirmish mini game, but not like Warhammer, and you're just,
Andor with cards,
yes, which is another forthcoming Sam joint that will maybe never see the light of day. But Sam Tung, in contrast, is a person who like goes really, really deep on obsessions. So like dinosaurs, knights was another really big one. Vikings was one for a long time. Sea creatures is another big one. So he's like created some like undersea adventures that he's run things and keeps threatening to make a zine about it. And so like I think the reason our collaboration works really well, and if you're looking for a collaborator, this is like I think a great way to do it, is like have one person who gets really, really obsessed with things, and another person who just like can glom on to someone else's obsession really well, and because I think he brought a lot of focus to a lot of my sort of all over the place ideation, and I was like, well, we're working on this now, so I guess I'm working on this with my buddy. Whereas I think otherwise I would have had 15 different unfinished games, which is kind of where I'm at right now. Yeah. But peril and safety moves. So if you check that, I mean, I think you can maybe see it on the screen right now. But the moves in Dino Island are split up between peril moves and safety moves. I didn't think of this as that huge a concept when I was designing it, and maybe there's a lesson there that I kind of try to take to heart. And there's a few things about Escape from Dino Island where it's like things that I didn't think were that inventive or innovative have been things that people have really found exciting and influential, and so to me it's like a good reminder. I think Microscope, if you've ever played the game Microscope, Ben Robbins, who wrote that, talks a lot about that in the text of Microscope, where he's like, come up with an idea, come up with the most obvious idea you can think of, because a lot of times like you're a unique person in the world, and what you think is really obvious is actually not at all obvious to everyone else around you. And I've really tried to take that to heart. But so for me with peril and safety moves, I was just really thinking about how when you watch a movie, you like a Jurassic Park, or actually weirdly, I was thinking a lot about the TV show 24, which is like a real action story where it's like the clock is always ticking. You're like, go, 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 go. And then these stories, they find ways to like, whenever you're doing something where everything slows down for a little bit and you have a moment of safety, and that's a moment that like lets you control a little bit where the story is going to go next. Whereas when you're in the action, you're kind of just like being pulled along by you, the character at this point, like are being pulled along. But also those are the moments where those characters kind of take on a dimensionality. And so for me, I mean, I think people have talked about how they think the way that I came out of D&D, and one of the things that was always really challenging in D&D was this idea of like, we need to bluff our way past the guards, and everyone at the table wants to roll their bluff check, or on the other hand, like we need to sneak through this forest and not get seen by goblins or whatever. And now every single person at the table has to roll their sneak check, and if one person fails, and people have come up with different ways to approach that. And so to me, it was like, I thought about that and I was like, well, what feels real to me? And it was the idea that like in a dangerous situation, like sneaking through the woods when there's goblins looking for you, whoever's the worst, whoever's like the worst at this or the worst position, is the one who rolls to see what happens, and faces the brunt of the consequences. And then when you're in a situation where things are a little safer and you have more control, then obviously the person who's best positioned to succeed steps forward and takes point on that. And so that kind of became part of the framing. But to me, obviously, if you've read the book, the big framing is safety moves are the ones where your character tells a story. And the tell a story mechanic has kind of become the thing that people like to talk about the most about Escape from Dino Island. And I can talk a little bit more about it in a second, but I think for me, like, to kind of tie this together, I think the thing that was really that this really all kind of came from for me was just thinking about, my background in screenwriting, my love of television and movies that inspired my desire to go to screenwriting, and like how these stories actually work and how I could mechanize those stories and try and create space in an exciting action adventure story for these slower, like organic space for people to kind of show their character. Whereas I think sometimes when you're playing a game that doesn't leave space for that, everyone's kind of trying to find ways to sneak it in, and it's always a little bit difficult and never quite satisfying.
Yeah. There's a lot that comes out of that. Like I said, we can dive into it in a minute. Yeah, but that separation of moves is one of the things that hit me. Also, I forgot until I was rereading through earlier in the day. You do this thing. There's this thing at the beginning of the game that's here's the situation, where you're just establishing the timeline of where they are at in the narrative, and you build it. But it is just like, hey, let's pick one of these questions we want to answer about, like, why are we all together? Like, how did we hear about the island before we arrived? Then you arrive on the island. Like, there's all, and then it's like, okay, cool. Right now, here's where we are. Here's where we're starting the game. Like, lots of times that is preamble, or like you'll kind of do a session 0. The leanness of this and just let's pick a couple questions we're going to answer to quickly define these things and get right in. It's doing a lot to place people in the narrative, and I just had totally forgotten that it exists. But it's a really smart move, like to just get people all on the same page with what is going on, because otherwise you'll default to just the tropiness of the movie rather than having kind of your own story that you're driving forward within those same genre conventions, right? And so, like, yeah. I guess I don't know if I'd glazed over it. I don't know, why, but like, it really struck me today when I was reading through. Like, that's such a smart way for a one-shot or short arc game to really get people on the same page, going and pointing in the same direction, so that you can do like, hey, no, we're gonna start in action doing a thing. Here is what's happening, and it's just really well executed. Did that come about early, or was that something that came up later in playtesting?
That came about very early, and I think partially, like, I'd love to. There are parts of that I think are things that we can really own and take credit for, but I think also it speaks to a slightly different time in kind of indie RPG culture. I think when you look at that game, we made that game in like 2019. And when you think about like what the 2010s looked like in terms of indie game culture, there were a lot of these one shots that were like games like Downfall or Dialect or Microscope or Kingdom that were doing similar kinds of questionnaire structures at the setup. To kind of, and they worked a little differently, but that idea of like, we're going to sit down and be guided through an experience that's going to create our setting in some mechanical way. Also, there's a designer named Marshall Miller who created The Warren, which is a great and underappreciated PbtA game, and which shares some stats with Dino Island, but it's a case of parallel evolution. But he created for Dungeon World, which I mean I was like really deep in Dungeon World. Cannot stress enough how much I was a Dungeon World head for a while, much to my current embarrassment. But
no one needs to be embarrassed.
I actually don't feel any shame about it.
No one needs to
be
embarrassed about it.
It's very uncool to have liked Dungeon World now. But I think it's
uncool to have been one of two people making Dungeon World right now.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I think also there's a lot of ways in which Dungeon World. This is not a conversation about Dungeon World, but there's been a lot. I think there's a lot of things that Dungeon World did that that ended up having sort of an outsized impact on sort of the direction of PbtA design. That I think people look back and now are like, ooh, those were some. Like, I wish we hadn't gone down that path and like trace it back to Dungeon World. And I think it's easier to kind of ignore some of the things that Dungeon World did that were really cool. But one of the things that it did that was really cool was it created this, like, it had a massive third-party ecosystem of playbooks and just like people building cool little mechanical subsystems on it. And Marshall Miller created these like PbtA or these Dungeon World like starters, and they were like just one page.
I was just gonna say it's one of the few PbtA games that has adventures, depending on how you want to look at it.
And I think that stuff is great. I think of basically, Escape from Dino Island is a PbtA game that has a built-in adventure, and I think there's this. I think there's a common sort of fear or like aversion to the idea of adventures in PbtA, because it's like you're playing to find out what happens, and I think that that's really important. I love play to find out what happens. It was transformative for me when I sort of started thinking that way. And I think there's this idea of draw maps, leave blanks, which came from Dungeon World, and a lot of other like subtle ways in which PbtA kind of, if you read it a certain way, you're encouraged to kind of let it all unfold the way it does, not plan anything in advance, not bring any sort of outside adventure. But I think it actually works really well when you have an adventure. And I think more games of all different kinds could benefit from it. That's my please make more PbtA adventures, figure out what that looks like and run with it. I think Escape from Dino Island is that for me. And you can see how it's both very tightly focused, but you can still play to find out what happens. And every game is different. So it's like it can kind of do both of those things.
I mean, if you wanted to see a good example of a game like that had adventures, you should go to ttrpg.link/stonetop and check out what the 600 additional, the 1200 additional.
That's your last one. That's your last one tonight.
Actually what I was going to say, and this will come up a couple times tonight, I think this is one of the things also that Carr from Brindlewood picked up and did really well, like the mystery system of CFB. Like this is a way of thinking about adventures, right? Like
Jason's been doing that from the beginning with Gauntlet games. I mean, you can see it with Trophy even, which is not technically a P, or I don't know if it has the logo.
It's not.
It's
not, but it's
in the same universe.
Yeah.
But the Trophy incursions, the Brindlewood Bay mysteries, like I think they do that really well. And
it comes out of that same movement of people crafting things for Dungeon World, those one-page things that get you kind of everything you need to get going and play the adventure also too. But it's like I said, there's so many things that are like just super strong articulations in this game. But that was another one I just really wanted to make sure we called out. But yeah, tell a story, and we also talked.
I did want to say a couple things about the questionnaire that I think are. I feel like I'm coming off as like a. I don't know. I don't need to get into that, how I'm feeling right now.
As a friend who can just have a conversation with other friends.
But I like to talk about I like to talk about the things that I did in this game, because I think people sometimes like to downplay what the cool things in their own games out of humility, but like you put a lot of intentionality into a lot of things that maybe don't always the players don't necessarily, or the readers don't always notice or think about, don't notice, but don't think are necessarily intentional in the way that they are. And so one of the things that I think the questionnaire, a couple of things that I think the questionnaire does that I think are really cool and really interesting, and maybe people don't talk about as much. One, it's in past tense primarily. And it's because the story starts in media res. And I wish RPGs played with tense more than they do. It's a very present tense, other than like a Blades in the Dark flashback. It's often like a very present tense medium. And I really liked the way, like, framing that as like, this is all stuff that has already happened. And now we're going to start explicitly. And then the other thing that I think is really cool about it is, or something that I thought a lot about, is we made this game that's about a cinematic movie experience. It's designed to be a one shot. It's designed to tell a story that feels like Jurassic Park. But we were really aggressively focused the entire time on not adopting an authorial stance, especially for the players and the player characters. Like, you can, but at any given moment, if you're one of the players in the game, not the Dino Master, you can really just sit there and be like, what would I do in this situation? What do I want to do in this situation? And like, think about it from in terms of the diegesis and what's happening in the world. And like, so if you look at a lot of the moves, like, it's like, what do I see? And it's not like there's a map, but it's like, I wanted people to think about, like, what am I actually seeing right now from a first person perspective, and being able to play that game in that mode. And that starts in the questionnaire when we set up these obstacles. There's a mystery you have to solve, and there's something that's blocking your path. And those two obstacles are like mechanical things. When you solve one obstacle, X mechanic, you advance, and the what's it even called? I'm blanking on now. The game changes. You can look it up in the zine. I'm like forgetting my own game right now. But but the idea of like setting those things up in a way where like you're coming up with the obstacles that are in your path, and you're thinking about them as obstacles that your characters are puzzling out, trying to figure out what they're going to do about, puts you in this mindset of like, what are we going to do about this? And not, this is a mechanical widget that we need to deal with the mechanics. And I really like the way that kind of sets people up to think that way, in sort of a like dungeon delving sort of OSR mode, even though it's a PbtA game.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's
Extinction
so good.
Event.
That's the word I was looking for.
I popped the structure of the game up on the screen next to us. Yeah, the next few sections will have the DM, the game adventure, while others are making their characters look at the mysteries of the island. On page 18, when the heroes deal with one or two obstacles, it's time to unleash the extinction event. Page 20. This is also when the heroes advance. When they deal with the second obstacle, it's time for the daring escape. Page 22.
Yeah, and so if you're the Dino Master, you're like pulling these strings to kind of create something that has the shape of a traditional action adventure movie. But if you're the player characters, it can almost feel a little bit like magic, right? That's the goal anyway. That it feels like nobody's ever saying, all right, now we're in Act 2, now we're in Act 3, but you're feeling those things in the same way that you would if you're in a movie. The tenor is changing, the tonality of the story is changing, and I think it makes the Dino Master feel really cool and really smart, and it makes the players think they're really smart, the Dino Master, and it lets the players really invest themselves in the characters and the fiction.
Yeah, and there's really great lens in here. Like, the text is in dialogue and sections, because like the mysteries of the island section is repeating text from the situation, specifically the things the players do not know, that they are not establishing, and those opening questions are the mysteries of the island that the Dino Master is looking at, like as they're doing their prep also too. Like, it's really great to kind of see how those two things just mesh into each other. So you're each coming to those conversations in some really just distinctive ways, but you've given them all the tools to kind of help make that happen. And it is one of the things, like, I think they're some of the best PbtA procedures that have evolved in the current like mode of design for the last, let's say, 5 years, right? Like, it is regularly that I will hear people talk about like the magic of those moves, right? That those moves themselves do something that or the process or the procedure is doing something that really drives the narrative in a way that is kind of bigger than what's happening at the table or any one person has control over. And that kind of always happens with RPGs, but the fact that it is loosely constrained in the way that PbtA designed holds things together, I think is one of the most beautiful things about it. Because I went to a convention and I had to hear a trad/OSR blogger talk about just because I was in the back of the room.
This is Tony's shit talking corner.
Yeah, Tony's shit talking corner. Talk about a post that they have that's very popular and describing how it works, and then at the end saying, but it doesn't always work, so you just have to make sure they get the third clue if they don't get it the first 2 times. I won't tell you what the article is called or who the person was, but it was about the third clue. And so,
the 3 clue rule.
But it was just we don't want to say.
This is wild. That person's from my metro area.
Oh well, now I have to be nice to them. Never mind.
Very weird. No,
go
I
get
don't.
Dino Island to support the No Ice in Minnesota bundle right now.
Oh yeah, don't get my game for free. Go get it.
Don't get it for free. Go pay money for it right now and support people.
Yeah, pay money.
Can pay literally the price of the game for that game plus
thousands of others.
1,400 other games, and you'll be doing good.
But anyways, they basically were trying to explain why the whole thing that they just spent a workshop talking about and written blog articles on and gotten basically doesn't work, and that you just kind of have to spoon feed people at the end of the day in order to make it work a lot of the time. The structure of Dino Island theorized like a lot of other the labyrinth move, like there's a lot of other great like procedures that exist within this era of PbtA design, like the G+ days plus right afterwards, that really they work and they're doing something and it feels natural and effortless when they are executed in the way that they are laid out to do. That's really just beautiful. Good job.
Thanks.
Well, and one thing that do you want to go ahead?
No, you, Aaron, go for it.
So the division of safety and peril, I think, is of interest to me in a broader sense, and I'm so surprised that people haven't taken it up. You and I talk about the perfect superhero game, which has not been made
yet.
But in a superhero game, or I'm also thinking in a sports game, or in a night game or a martial arts game, often the first idea is you're in this fight. We have to mechanize this fight. But for most superheroes, the fight is a safety event. Like it's not about will they win or not. It's about what piece of character will be revealed in this fight, kind of what ongoing trauma maybe is being reactivated. But you're never thinking, is Spider-Man going to win against these bank robbers? No, that's a safety event for Spider-Man. And so to me, this is such an amazing division, and I want it to be carried over to so many other things where a fight is not about will you win or will you lose. It's about kind of what character moment is revealed there, and that can be, I'm thinking of, Tony, you mentioned Longsword and Knights, like the movie Knight's Tale, he's going to win every joust until the last one. So those are all safety events. It's about what can he reveal to the audience? What can he reveal to his friends? And then the peril events are like meeting a woman. That's the danger for this young knight.
Perilous of all events.
Right. Or for Spider-Man, the peril event is like trying to get a job from J. Jonah Jameson, and can he make his rent? And so we've talked about how moves can sort of spotlight or mechanize the events in fiction that are the truly important ones, which are maybe not the fight. It might be the pining at the window. It might be the glance across the room. Those are the moments that you want to resolve with a dice roll, not the fight. And so I don't know. That was meant to be a question, but I monologued instead.
I think it's super interesting, and I think that I'm thinking part of it is I'm thinking it over. I mean, this is what we do, right? We puzzle this stuff out. You're getting insight into what our DMs look like. But I think that I think there's something to that. I remember like years ago, and I didn't have the chops to even think about how to actually do this, but I remember being like, I want to make a Kung Fu game, a Kung Fu PbtA game, where like all the moves are fighting moves. So like if you want to woo someone, like if you want to like impress somebody, you have to fight them. If you want to learn about somebody, you have to fight them. And so like all of the things that usually would be like, you know, read a sitch or you know, even like you can imagine like gaining experience. Like the only way to gain experience is to like do a learning move where you fight someone. And so it kind of turns that idea of peril and safety on its head. But like it means like you like the fight is not about who wins the fight. It's about this, like you're saying, it's about this other thing you're trying to do through your fight, and maybe those things are changing as the fight's going on, and maybe at some point you like can actually win the fight. But I haven't really thought about it in a long time, but it does feel relevant to like a superhero game. For me, I think the thing that's beautiful about them, though, and I think which kind of brings together both of these ideas, is the idea that like a move is a chance to like really zero in on your games, to like recenter your game on the theme. And I think to your point of what you were saying before, Tony, about like things being like loose and yet feeling tight in PbtA when they're done well. I think this is like this misconception a lot of times that PbtA games are like these like really well-oiled machines with like all these interlocking snowballing moves. You hear this kind of language, and there is an element to that, to move snowballing. But to me, it always ends up feeling a little more in a great PbtA game like you're doing whatever you want. You're having your adventure's going this way, and then eventually you hit a move, and the move just like gently kind of reminds you what the themes of the game are. And so like yeah, in Escape from Dino Island, when you're running away, you might get bitten by a dinosaur. Like survival is one of the themes. But like when you're hiding, the bigger question is like, are the dinosaurs going to find you, or are they going to find your friend? And do you get to choose, or does the DM get to choose? Like and like if you look through a lot of those moves, the big thing that we were exploring, and I had been thinking about Lost a lot, which Lost is like a show that is deeply formative.
I held off bringing up Lost earlier. So.
We could talk a lot about Lost, and Aaron has made a very cool game about Lost. What's it called again, Aaron? I'm blanking on the name of it, but
what did I do to get here? It's a quote from Lost. Yeah, it's a long quote. It should have been shorter. It's a bad title. It's
a really cool game though. But for me, the thing that always really hammered home was this idea of like live together, die alone, in Lost. And so the question of, and I think it's also something that speaks to me in this political moment a lot of times, is like solidarity and being willing to, you know, there's that Bernie line in 2016, I think it was. No, it's been 2020, of like, are you willing to fight for someone you don't know? I think was what he said. And so this idea of like, all of the moves are kind of in different ways asking you this question of like, are you going to choose yourself, or are you going to risk yourself to choose to help other people? And so the idea that like, no matter what you're doing in the game, it's kind of always bringing you back to these questions. And I think it's why a lot, and then that plus we keep talking about tell the story, and I should probably talk about it at some point, but like that plus the tell the story mechanic end up being this thing where it's like I've played so many games of Escape from Dino Island where someone's like, I'm Chef Jacques Dinosauria, and I am on a quest. Like, I've always wanted to eat a dinosaur egg omelet, and that's why I'm going on this adventure to try and make the first dinosaur egg omelet. And everyone's like, okay, Chef Dinosauria, like this is this goofy guy, and it like starts off as just a goofy bit, and then like you get to the end of the game, and it's like Chef Dinosauria is like go on without me, and sacrifices themselves to let the others escape to safety, and then everyone has to like share a fond memory of Chef Dinosauria. And it's like, it's the kind of thing where it's like because this game has been constantly giving people opportunities to be a selfish heel or to put others before themselves, and it's been giving them a chance to like illuminate who they are as a person, what they care about through the tell the story mechanic, or tell us story mechanic. It kind of like is this trick. I talk a lot about tricks because I think that like the beauty of a great role playing game is it does kind of trick you, like a magic trick, into doing something or feeling something or hitting some thematic idea that you didn't know you had in you on your own. And I think that's sort of the magic trick of Escape from Dino Island, in my experience, is that you start off with these goofy, broad characters, and you end up by the end actually kind of caring about them and thinking that they matter, and feeling for them. And so I guess this is my segue into talking about tell a story.
Well, I'm going to tell you this now because we're going to talk about it later. I am going to ask you based on Aaron's reflection later. We're all going to talk about it. We're all going to get into it.
Yeah.
I loved Aaron's reflection on what is the peril move and what is the safety move. And I think each of us has different weird versions of where we operate in those two paradigms, like the places that should be peril moves but are safety moves, or safety move or peril moves.
Yeah.
I want to come back to that as an end of interview beat and talk about that for each of us.
This is a hard. You're making a hard move against us.
I am, but I'm also doing the polite interviewer thing of telling you now rather than just waiting and doing it later. So your brain can work on it in the background.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we'll come back to it.
Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, what are we talking about?
We can talk about tell a story. Yeah. So like it is the thing that I think everybody does remember from this. So like tell a story. And again, this is like, I'm a T-Rex in the chat was like, oh, CFB mentioned, I mean, this is one of my comments. I feel like tell a story has tremendous impact. I think it was one of the first moves that I read that felt like, besides Defy Danger, right? Like that felt like a true meta move that could be worked into almost any genre really easily. Like you could just put it into a game and use it mechanically in a lot of different ways. It was doing really interesting things. And I think it probably is a early version, even if it's not like a direct DNA, like, ancestor of it, like branches or keys or masks for like CFB games, right? Like those share a lot of the same function, where you're doing this kind of character development and reveal moment. It's a really kind of amazing piece of tech. I think it is helpful, and I'm trying to remember if is it spelled out explicitly in the?
It's not a move.
It's not a move. That's the thing. It's a cost you pay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of the safety moves, if I can explain, just to give you a rest and let you think about this thing we're going to talk about at the end.
Sure.
A lot of the safety moves require you to tell a story. All the individual playbooks have sections about stories you tell. And so they, not so much. The occasional PbtA criticism is like people are just put in the spotlight and they have to make something up. That's not the case here. You have this framework. And then a lot of playbooks also, I think, have moves and things that affect telling a story or tie into telling a story. Does that sound right? Correct?
Perfect. And it's funny because you hit on a thing that is true, which is that early versions of the game did not have the stories you tell section of the playbook.
They're great sections.
I love it. I think it really we went through a lot of iteration of those stories. Probably actually less than you might think, because it's the kind of thing that, like, to Hollywood like screenwriters and like that's the kind of way our brains work. But originally there was a version where we didn't have any of those stories you tell, and it was just like tell a story, and people floundered. And then there was a version where each of the different tell a story moves had a specific thing, so like a kind of story associated with it, and it got really bad with like the doctor who would be like patching people up and like have to tell sort of variations on, like you can imagine a sort of funny version where the doctor is just patching everyone up and telling the exact same story to different characters over the course of a game or whatever. But that was not what we wanted for this, and so yeah, we hit on this idea of the stories you tell piece, and I really love that part because I think it does give people a lot of just the friction they need to come up with something, and help them figure out who their character is, but also give them a lot of latitude to kind of twist it any way they want. and I like, you know, to your point, Tony, I would love to see people do more with that. I'm thinking like I should do more with that. Like I love that the little 5 stories in the corner. It really is the piece that speaks to me more than anything. But also I do love, to your point, Aaron, the way it ended up being structured so that you say what you're going to do. And so like to really put a fine point on what Aaron was describing with safety moves, the way it works is you're in a moment of safety. You are like, I'm looking for something useful. And then you have to do it with it. So every safety move has to be done with another person, which is another important part of those. So you're looking for another thing, you tell your story, and then you roll. And so it's subtle, but it's like you can picture that scene, right? Like Aaron and Tony are walking through this abandoned lab, and they're trying to find a first aid kit to patch up their friend, and Tony starts to tell Aaron a story of you know, the time he shaved his beard and regretted it.
So can you give us an example from a game?
It's also some lost shit. Like it's lost coded in an amazing way that they figured out and then like maybe sort of warped and changed in some strange ways. But just like, if you want to show a dramatic moment, one way to do that is show how that relates to that character's past. Again, in the tenses you're talking about. And so many RPGs are stuck in present tense of moment to moment, like comic book language of like, we have to show every single thing. So afraid to cut, so afraid to flash back or flash forward. And so just say like, just give us a
flashback. It's like very literal, right? It's like
I put this thing in my pocket.
Yeah, I had a gun the whole time. Instead of like the opportunity to do what Lost did so well with its flashbacks when it did them really well, which was use them both to create a sort of compelling secondary like B story, but also to like really provide a counterpoint, a thematic counterpoint. And I think people probably aren't thinking about that when they're coming up with their telestories. It's like hard to do that on the fly, but like it happens naturally a lot of time because we're good at making connections. And if you're in the story and you're invested in it, like you're going to think of something that is sort of has some connection to it, probably, whether you realize it or not. And that's where the magic happens at a table a lot of times. It's very Lost. But again, the reason I thought of 24 was because in 24 they'd be running and gunning the whole time, and then every now and then they get stuck in LA traffic, right? Because it was all set in LA, and they like be like literally stuck in a car, and it was happening in real time. And so like that would finally be an opportunity for two characters to like have the conversation they needed to have. You see it happen a lot of times on the Pit now. If anyone's watching,
I was gonna mention, like, for people who don't know what 24 is, it's like the Pit, but special, like secret agents or special or like
should make Escape from the Pit.
Escape from the Pit.
Really good.
And really also good. one of the fun things that if I recall correctly, which Sam, you would probably have better insight into this than I would. They added the car scenes in because diegetically everybody was like, it's 24 hours, but no one's going to believe that we're not going to spend time in traffic in LA. And we have to figure out, like, we have to be in the car sometimes, but we also have to figure out how to make that time like narratively work rather than just being like, all right, 15 minutes to get to the bank. Like, you know,
I can't say that I know for sure. Now I'm curious.
I have heard a story about it.
That it was like, they're like, we need to do something in these car scenes.
Yeah.
Or whether it was like, how can we ever find an opportunity to get these people to like just have a heart to heart? And it's like, stick them in a car for 20 minutes of real time.
Yeah.
Eventually they're going to have it out.
But yeah, I have not watched The Pit, but I do. And I also did not watch 24, but I do know that they are very similar shows and the tonal reality of them. And so do you think Dr. Noah is going to go on sabbatical at the end, or do you think he's going to find a reason not to?
I think he's going. I think it's like a great like in between seasons. Then he comes back and he's a new man.
He's refreshed. I just know that that's he's about to go on sabbatical. That's what I know about The Pit.
I will say for those. Well, I don't want to say anything. It's not even a spoiler, but it's the kind of thing where like if it turns out to be true, it will feel like I spoiled it for you. I've heard a theory, and it's like truly a like no one knows any. It's not a like. No one's got any secret knowledge, but if anyone wants me to
for
share
all you pit heads out there,
for all you pit
on
heads,
the stream,
come at me on Blue Sky, and I'll share some ideas.
Yeah.
I have to say this. I'm very normie coded, I think, in a lot of ways. And I've been thinking lately about how like we are in this specific moment in time, like the past few weeks, we're in like a really beautiful moment for normie media, because like the Pit is on, Paradise came back, which is like just like airport thriller. I don't know if anyone watches that. It's like it's very lost coded. Aaron, you would actually really like it.
I just watched the first 3 episodes of Paradise this afternoon while doing some typing.
I love it. It's so good. It's like so network TV in a way that like that like shows aren't anymore, mostly except for the Pit, but with a budget and a good cast. My thing is, I'm actually, as much as I made a game about movies, I'm like actually a network TV person at heart. I love Lost. That's what I always, when I was in Hollywood, that's like what I wanted to do. And so the reason Dino Island was a one-shot game was primarily because that was like what I could schedule at the time. And I like really felt like people were making one-shot games that were really, really cool, but were just different kinds of stories than the kinds of stories that I really am drawn to in role-playing games, which is like, you know, adventure stories. Like I started playing D&D, and I started playing D&D for a reason, and it's because I like swashbuckling adventure, and I like larger-than-life heroes, and I think a lot of the people who've been making one-shot games and making really fantastic one-shot games are part of what they're rebelling against is not just campaign play, but also that sort of action adventure storytelling. And so it felt really exciting to me to make something that kind of did both of those things.
Well, and maybe the trick is you just got to create a modifier here. So they're all escape from island, but you're just changing what type of island you're escaping from. And then you can just go escape from mysterious island as your last game.
Then the expansion is, we got to go back to the island.
We got to go back to the island.
Well, look, I'll tell you some things that you might. This is the secret lore of Sam, who has too many Google Docs. Is there is a Escape from the Dungeon Depths, which is like a like dungeon delving game, but with Escape from Island tones, and you like start off, you're halfway through the dungeon, and things have, you know, the door is caved in and you're trapped. It's like more of an Indiana Jones sort of feel. And then there's a Escape from Dracula's Castle, which is a little bit more, I had read Dracula and got really into the idea of doing that. And it's like a little more interpersonal drama rather than like dealing with animals. I haven't cracked that one yet, but it like, you know, it's like kind of like how often can Dracula just show up and like vamp at you, literally vamp at you. And then there is wait, what was the other one? There's something else you said.
Escape from Family Holiday.
Escape from Family Holiday. Oh my gosh. And then the other thing is there is a Return to Dino Island Google Doc, and the first line is like, we have to go back, Jack from Lost. and so that I think will actually happen eventually when Sam and I can get our schedules in alignment, and we can like sit down and play it a little bit, because the dream. So if anyone wants a free, if anyone wants to know what I want them to make, which is I don't know who does. I think that the dream for Return to Dino Island is to make a game that does sequels. You know, so rather than there will probably be some campaign play in it too, like a longer form storytelling around in the Dino Island sort of landscape. But the thing I really want to do is like you play a bunch of chained one shots, and they kind of build on each other, and creating sort of mechanical structures in the same way that Dino Island I think does hopefully a really good job of helping you play a one shot that feels simultaneously very like you're very present in it, but also like it has the structure of a movie. I would love to create something that kind of lets you be present, but also lets you create a structure of sequels, because I like want that kind of thing. And I think people weirdly, we there's a lot of space to improve on session structure, I think, in game design. I think it's a really underexplored space somehow still. Like you have one-shot games and you have campaign games, which are like, just play until it feels right and then do the end of session move. And I think there's like something in between there that would be really cool. It would make me really happy. I think a lot of people would really love to play it.
I want the returnee playbook, and their tell a story is just talk about things that happened in the last
The
one
last
shot.
time, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not returnee, but it's literally like there'd be a whole list of new stories, right? And some of them would be like things that happened on the island last time, things that happened in between. What like there's a whole category of things that happened since you've been like in like Lost season 3, season 4 kind of stuff. Yeah, we should talk about this. I feel like you could help me unlock some of it because it's like I've been just jammed on it for a while. But we're always talking about new playbooks that would go in there. I did release, if anyone hasn't checked the Dino Island itch page recently, I released the Smuggler, which was a new playbook for the first time. It was like it's happened like a year or something, but it was after Jimmy Buffett died. And I was like, I suddenly realized I was like a really big Jimmy Buffett fan and had never really known that about myself. So he asked when I'm in safety, it's when I'm listening to Jimmy Buffett. And it was like and of course like Frank Lapidus from Lost and some of those other like Jimmy Buffett coded characters, and I was just like I want
Lapidus is so Jimmy Buffett coded. That's amazing.
And so I really wanted a character who felt like that, and it was fun. He's like, I mean, or they, I guess it could be any gender, but the character is like really a scumbag. Just like he like the move lets you like have a secret other way off the island, and then you can just like disappear to it. And so it's one of the things that I really like playing with, especially in some of these extra playbooks and things like that, and some of the other things I've been designing with my like PbtA hat on, is like what like how can you push against some of the conventional wisdom of game design and be like, well, what if you just make a character whose just whole thing is a heal? In the same way that like the kid is a great example of a character who like breaks a lot of game design rules. The kid has objectively worse, like by design has worse stats than everyone else. The kid can do anything, like has the ability to do anything that nobody else can do, but is probably going to fail at it, or at least get a 7 to 9. And then the kid has the power to like force other characters to help them. And so you have a character who's worse than everyone else, who has more powers than everyone else, and who can sort of mind control other PCs. And all of those things are like huge no-nos in game design. And yet I've never seen anyone have anything but a great time with the kid, because it's so telegraphed. Like you know exactly what you're getting on both sides with this character, and it's so built out of a archetype that people know and love. And like if the kid's a little annoying, well, has anyone seen Jurassic Park? The kids are a little annoying in Jurassic Park too.
The retrofit, by the way, says my family had an intervention and told my sister-in-law that she is a Jimmy Buffett fan. She got upset and said that they were wrong. Which is a great thing.
Send that woman to a dinosaur island.
That's right. I want to pivot a little bit into masks retconned in a second. But I want to take a moment to talk about the question in front of us all, peril and safety modes for us personally. I'll go first since I proposed the question. I feel it's only fair because I have so the move that I have in draft right now for the Make Moves Jam at ttrpg.link/make moves jam, making single PbtA moves, as many as you want, as few as you want, for games that exist, for games that don't. I have 2 in draft, but they're basically like to tend to flame is the concept. And I was thinking about like, I want to do something about just starting a fire. I like the idea. I like that imagery. I have had 2 things happen to me in the last little bit that have made that really resonant in my life. I have to be careful how I talk about one of them on stream, though, to not create additional liability for myself. The first one was the roaster at our coffee shop that should not be able to catch on fire. Did catch on fire. If I have not sent you this video, I will send you this video later. It looks frantic and it looks crazy. And then Keegan, when they saw it, was like, I thought people were going to be screaming and yelling. And I turned on the audio and it's just you talking calmly about like looking for the fire extinguisher. Everyone is chill. Everyone is fine. While literally there is a piece of electrical equipment on fire in the middle of the coffee shop. I eventually like get the fire, like I eventually get it put out, right? But it was like at no point, like I was like, oh, this sucks. And then I was like, I need to find the fire. There was no stress about the situation other than the normal, there's a fire in here amount of stress, but probably significantly less. It's to Aaron's point, it's probably something that for a lot of people would have been crazy, but for me it was just oh, here is the problem, we just need to solve it. My front porch and my neighbor's front porch caught on fire recently.
Unrelated event
in the last month. My front porch, like I have a patch on my front porch and my neighbor's front porch.
Tony's gonna get arrested for arson, and we're gonna be like, this check, like serial arson, and we're like, what?
We can have more conversations about what happened.
We had all the clues.
But it was the first time in my adult life I was like, oh, this is what like a traumatic event, like I could feel my brain doing something that it doesn't normally do, and I was like, oh, this is like the impact of trauma. Like I'm super weirdly self-aware of it, but it's because there are firemen trudging in and out my front door. They are taking a chainsaw to my front porch to cut into it, to try to see if there are flames in the basement or down below. They halfway drag in a fire hose that is leaking all over the place, then decide to pull it back out, but only part of the way back out because they're going to cut through the porch instead. They're doing the same thing to my neighbor's porch. And I was like, yeah, I feel overwhelmed. And like, I'm still doing a lot of problem solving, but the difference is the problem solving is dissociative panic work because I can't do anything else, right? Like it is an entirely different mode. And so like, to me, like that is the epitome of like peril mode versus safety mode, right? Like of those two things. And I think the biggest difference is in one of those situations, I had to be in charge, or I was in charge. Like I am the manager at the coffee shop. I'm the one who has to make sure the fire gets put out. And the other one, fucking firemen here cutting into my porch. Like they're in like this may be my house. They're in charge.
You have no control. You don't know the
control.
outcome.
Yeah. I honestly don't know what happened to get us to this point exactly. Right. Like,
on a 6 or less, be prepared for the worst.
Yeah. So it was like they were two very clear moments, but it really comes down to, I think for me, when I feel the need to be in command, or like I have to take care of other people, that is how I maintain control and a sense of safety. Is like I will be in command of the situation, or I will protect the people who are in need, or I will take action to do something to. There was nothing to do around any of that for that second one. When I am like essentially the one who has to be taken care of, like that flips me out into the entirely different mode. Who wants to go next?
That's not offense. I know other people like that too. It's a really well illustrated through the use of fire.
Yeah. Who wants to go next?
Aaron, you're next on my screen, so I think you have to go.
Sure. Yeah. No. So something I'm trying to move from a peril move to a safety move, and maybe Sam can chime in on this. It's like when people disagree with me because I'm very Midwestern, my immediate instinct is like, I'm a peril move right now. I don't know what's going to happen. So I stated something and someone said, no, it's different. Freak out, roll the dice. I don't know what's going to happen. But especially in regards to like things in my city and community stuff going on and people having experience with the 2020 uprisings, I'm trying to make it easier to say like, actually, I do know. Like I have stated this thing. I'm pretty confident about it. Can we please pursue this thing I've said? And I feel like Sam is, in our conversations a lot. Maybe it's an East Coast thing. Maybe it's an LA thing. I don't know. But like maybe
it's just a coastal reality, right? Like Aaron's in the middle. Sam has had bites out of both pieces of coastal bread. Like,
you have a confidence in your approach to things, and also a kind of, if someone comes at you in your confidence, you have an ability to just be like, no, I'm still here. The thing I said, I will stick with, and like we can talk about it, but I'm not changing my position on it.
It's funny you say that, because I feel like that's both true and not true. I feel like that's both my peril and my safety move, because I think, and I could have said a few different things, and maybe I will, but I think in that specific context, I think I do think I'm in safety in a lot of situations where I'm like in an argument or in a debate or like in the middle of something. I think is a place where like it's that where a lot of other people are stressed. I remember like I know I've gotten a little worse than this, but I remember like when I was getting married and my wife was like, we were getting so many opinions from so many people about like the invitation and all these things. And she was like really stressed out about how to like make everyone happy. And I was like, you don't need to make everyone happy. Just like hear what they say, okay, I hear you. And then just do whatever you want. and like this idea of kind of being in the middle of this project and hearing a lot of people with opinions and understanding like which of those opinions, everyone's opinion is valid and everyone's opinion is useful, but like which of those opinions you're going to listen to and which of them you're going to ignore is like, I don't know. I came out of Hollywood. I say this a lot, but I came out of Hollywood. I don't know if you know, and you have to do that because like every time you send your script to anybody, like no one has ever been like, great, I love it.
We've got Truly, a note. We've got a note.
No one has ever said, great, I love it. They're like, great, I love it, but XYZ. I think you just need to do this. And like you have to, if you don't keep track of like where you stand on something and like what's right and what's wrong for it, if you don't figure that out for yourself, like I've seen a lot of people who just like end up like their script, they write 500 different versions of their script, and it's like, this is the version who was meant to please this person, this is the version that was meant to please this person, and like you don't even remember why you were writing the script or what was important about it. And that's true, I think, of games. That's true of anything, although I think in games maybe you hopefully get fewer notes than you do in Hollywood. You get a lot of feedback, but like it's a slightly different framework for how you for like there's less of a sort of there's less of like I need to think about how to take this person's feedback so that I can get paid. You don't have
none of us are getting paid.
Holding the purse strings in the same way. And I think that's one of the great things about RPGs is that like you can kind of just make stuff and put it out there, and obviously whether you make money on it or not is a different question. But like, but you don't need somebody to say, okay, I'm going to give you
there's not one person writing the check.
7 to 8 figures, to do this thing.
If Chris McDowell tells me that they need something and I need to change, I'm going to do it right now. I'm not going to lie.
Sure.
Jason Lutz can do that also too right now. Also too. Those are my two big business daddies. You can tell me what.
But notice they're on the other side. They're like, those are their creative projects, right? Like you can't be like, hey, I think this would sell better with a blue cover. Don't drop with a blue cover. By the way,
you can pay an extra $100 for the special blue cover Stone Top edition.
Yep.
Coming to you.
Yeah, it's just me and a can of spray paint, but happy to do it.
Where was I going with this? But I think on the flip side, I think I do sometimes. I was a philosophy student in college, which is extremely useful, and I highly recommend it to everyone.
Biggest red flag that Sam has dropped here tonight.
I'm full of them. But I'm just 900 red flags in a sweater. But don't tell my wife. What was I saying? But I think like I'm really good at seeing a lot of different sides of arguments, and I think that helps me in situations where it's like, oh, I can see how that makes sense, but I don't really. That's not for me. But I think the flip side of that is like when I'm in my head, suddenly it's a real peril move because like I can be like, oh, like I don't know, like what's a good example? Oh, so like the thing that I'm dealing with all the time right now is the world is falling apart. I used to be a very active DSA organizer in New York, doing a lot of like electoral communication stuff. And like since moving to Philly, I haven't done as much of that. And I have 2 kids, and people will say like, Sam, you have kids and you have a new job that's hard, and like you have a different responsibilities. And it's like I can hear that and I can say that, but then I go, but isn't that how the bad guys win? If everyone just like worries about their job and their kids, and then I'll be like, but also like burnout is real and everyone has to carry the torch for a little bit, and like that's part of organizing. And then I'll like, and I can just like sit there and just ping pong back and forth forever, and like, and then eventually just collapse into a puddle. And so I think that's like, you know, I think the danger for me, the peril is when I start arguing with myself, because I can really go back and forth, and and it can be hard to sit with that tension. And I think that's a really important thing to figure out how to be able to do.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Let's talk about Masks retconned. I did respond when Aaron brought this up, and I said it's the only Masks I'm willing to talk about.
Wow.
Which isn't entirely true. I am not a fan of the house style of PbtA of Magpie Games.
You're really going for it, Tony.
No, I'm publicly on record about that. I don't think they're bad. I have very specific feelings about them. I have only caught a little bit of what you're doing with Masks retcon, but I do love the idea of a demake mask. And actually, Masks is the only version of it that I like. I wish they would have moved on to making other games instead of just reskinning Max. Is my scathing hot take for a lot of the PbtA design of Magpie. But I am excited about what you're
next
doing.
episode we will have
Marcus Truman on so I can insult him to his face. No, I mean, I actually think there are a lot of different things that they do, but I think a lot of the core stuff that they do is very much trying to remake Masks. I think I have some particular issues with Masks in general. I am very interested in what you were doing with Masks retconned. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Okay, so Masks retconned. So first of all, I should say, if you want me to criticize Masks, I will criticize Masks for a very long time. I could go for another 2 hours. But also, I played in a 2-year-long Masks campaign with some people here in Philly, and it was a blast. And I have a ton. You know, this is the ping pong thing I was talking about. Is like I could tell you how much I think Masks is a mess, and I could also tell you how much Masks is a wonderful game that really facilitates a certain a certain game, like kind of play that was really successful for us.
You probably would not have made Masks retconned if you had just been like, Masks, it's fine.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
right? Like you had a deep experience with it.
Yeah, and there were so many things that I think it did right. Like I could have made, and I think to that point also, I think I could have made 3, you know, Mask retcon let me tell you a little bit about it for those who don't know. Mask retcon it's like 12 pages long. It's a work in progress. It's a demake of Masks, which is to say it is like a sort of stripped down, like, you know, demakes, when I think of it, I think of like the video games where they would make like, they'd take like some very high graphic polished AAA game and be like, what if we made this into like a pixel 2D game kind of thing, and see how it plays in that mode. And so Masks retcon is like a really stripped down version of Masks that kind of, to me, is designed to zoom in on the parts of Masks that I like the best. And I think one of my chief complaints about Masks, again, a game I think is wonderful in a lot of ways, is that it's doing a lot of things that it's already doing. So like, for example, like I'm going to get deep in Masks. I hope people know about Masks. But like Masks has this system, instead of stats or ability scores or whatever, Masks has labels. And your labels, unlike most stats, shift up and down all the time. And they're all negative. So like, because the game, Masks is a game of teen superheroes. And so they are all kind of this mix of how you see yourself and how other people see you. And so they are danger or superior or savior or freak, or what's the last one? What is it? There's another one. What is
really
it?
Good.
I'm great. I'm really good at remembering things that are in my own
it's
game.
really good is what I was saying. Which ones did you say already?
It's fine. We can move on. We got it.
There's another one. I'm going to remember it at a very inopportune time.
Yeah.
But mundane. That's what it is, which is an important one, because that's like, you're just like a normal, boring human. And so you can imagine how, like, you know, if you're Jimmy Olsen in a team of superheroes, your mundane might be very high because you see yourself a certain way. But then characters can shift your labels, so they can say, Like you think you're a good guy, but actually you're just destroying everything. You destroy everything around you. And they're saying we're shifting your savior down and your danger up. And so the game has this very dynamic stat manipulation thing. But then it also has conditions, which are a great piece of tech that a lot of other PbtA games have used, and I think are wonderful and a really cool replacement for hit points. But that's like angry or hopeless, or there's a whole bunch of them, and those affect how you roll your moves. And they're emotional states that like give you minuses to different moves, and if you take enough of them, you're out of the game or whatever. And so to me, I love both of those pieces of tech, but I feel like they're doing the same thing, and they're kind of redundant. They're both saying, depending on how you see yourself or how you feel in this moment, your ability to succeed or fail at different tasks is going to shift. And in kind of framing all of these conditions as negative, it kind of takes the space away from all of the labels being labeled in negative, using negative language, even though there's never anything bad about maxing out your danger. Like that doesn't mean you're more likely to cause collateral damage. In fact, it means you're probably less likely to cause collateral damage because you're going to be better at smashing things. And so Masks Retconned was basically me stripping the entire game down to labels and seeing what happens if I do that. And it's free. You can check it out and see what that looks like. And I think it's cool. I've only played one session of it. We ended up like closing out our campaign, our 2-year-long campaign, by like shifting over to Masks Retcon for literally the final session. And it was cool. It was really exciting. But like then one of our players went on to play a little campaign with it, and she loved it. And Richard of +1 EXP is currently in a campaign with some other people and is having a great time. And so that's been very cool to see that this little sort of experimental game that I made as a sort of love letter to my Masks campaign, and a way to make it more, well, part of it was to highlight this system that I thought was really cool, the label system, and part of it was also a way for me to explore some feelings that I've been having about PbtA games, which is like just about like what if we kind of blow up everything we know about PbtA games and try some different things, and you know, like people talk a lot about genre emulation in PbtA games, and I've started feeling like that's a whole can of worms that I'm not going to get too deep into, but I saw your face, Aaron. But no one wants to talk about that. But what I think is interesting is you see in a lot of PbtA games especially, but also just generally indie games, this idea of like, we're going to use the mechanics to reinforce the genre of the game. And to me, I think that's always sort of the least interesting and least useful thing you can do with mechanics, because like I'm sitting, you know, every time I say this, someone says, well, I don't know anything about superheroes and I wanted to play Masks. But like, for me, it's like, if you're sitting down at the table to play Masks, most of the people at that table probably are interested, like have a sort of working knowledge of superhero tropes, because what are they even doing playing Masks if they don't, or if they don't have someone at the table who can explain it to them, or is comfortable with them not knowing the tropes, you know. And so I don't need a game to tell me that like my character is going to have a secret, like a kryptonite, you know, or I don't need a game to tell me that like my character is going to need to like choose between saving Mary Jane or stopping the Green Goblin from blowing up the city hall or whatever. You know, like that's the kind of stuff that's really the bread and butter of superheroes. You don't need to tell me like that my superhero can have telekinesis or super strength. Like I'm familiar with superpowers. That's why I'm here. And so to me, it was like, what if I strip away all of that stuff and trust the audience, trust the players to bring that stuff, and instead focus on sort of these thematic ideas that I think are really at the core of in this case, like identity and becoming and growth and change and figuring out who you are. And so that kind of that's kind of like the two big impetuses for this game. But then I've been exploring some things with PbtA. I'm trying to think of like what are the other things I want to say about it. But if I'm spurring anything, I'm rambling. So if you're having thoughts, I mean, Aaron, have I sent you the new version? Tony, I don't think I've sent you the new version.
I know. I just downloaded the one off of it.
Okay.
So I'm happy to see it.
Because Aaron, you're gonna love the new version. I've told you.
I'm ready. Well, and something that it makes me think about is like the paranoid versus reparative readings, which is like part of criticism and media consumption in general. And like a paranoid reading is, I'm going to find all the problems in this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to like talk about the problems. And a reparative reading is something where like, I am going to read this, and then if I find gaps in it, I'm going to fill in those gaps. I'm going to repair it. I'm going to fix it. And like one way those readings have played out on the internet is like the cinema sins or whatever. Like this is the thing that went wrong, and that it was this way in this scene, and it was different in this other scene, versus fan fiction, which is like, oh, there's this gap here, that things seem different here. I don't understand why. I'm going to write a fan fiction that explains why this thing happened. And that applies to comics, and that like Marvel is their famous prizes for like, oh, we messed up. If you explain it, you get a prize. You get a no prize. And we send you this envelope and it's empty because there's no prize. But it creates this culture of explaining why something could have worked instead of complaining why it didn't work. And so the idea of I have problems with masks, I'm going to be pissed about it on social media, versus I have problems with masks. What if I just fixed it? What if I did the better version, or my version of it for my community or my approach to games? Well, it both like ties into comics, but also is just, you now have this cool game that people are enjoying and playing.
Well, and that dovetails with like a lot of the thinking I've been doing about I mean, Aaron, you are the monarch of custom moves and love letters. You've talked extensively about this. And there's a great Dice Exploder episode about it. And you've written a zine about it, and you have other zines that you're working on about like making custom moves and things like that. And the worksheet manifesto.
We've got a whole jam. You can go participate in.
Yeah, there's a jam happening literally right now.
Weird moves. You can go check out Chris Bassett's On a Miss blog that just rips. I'll drop the link down below to that, which is, they didn't know the jam was happening. They're just doing weird PbtA games, or weird PbtA moves for games that don't exist, and they're pure fucking poetry.
They're great. Where is it? Oh, so where I was going with this was I think there's this thing that happened in Apocalypse World, which was this call to create custom moves and really make the game your own. And the reason I mentioned you being the monarch of this, because I feel like I'm just paraphrasing things you've said, and better in other places, but I'm just gonna tell it back, see if I got it right, is that you make custom moves, or you make love letters, which are sort of a kickoff, like a move that kicks off a new chapter of a story or a new session or whatever, and usually includes a move in it. And this idea that the game can and should become your tables game. And so speaking, coming up with what you were saying, Aaron, about the idea of the restorative mode and how much masks retconned is sort of my version of masks for myself. It's like, how do I kind of build that out and try to put structures and language in that text that helps people feel empowered and excited to do that for themselves. Because like, I love writing moves. I think I've gotten pretty good at it. I'll let other people be the judge. But certainly I like the moves I write. Which is, I read something one time which was like, which I think about all the time, which is like, if you think of a stand-up comedian and how many bad stand-up comedians you've seen, like, it's what we all agree, it's kind of like one of the hardest things to do is to like be a good stand-up comedian. People bomb 90% of the time, right? But when you think about all of the jokes told in the world, probably 75% of them land, right? And it's because in those situations, you're surrounded by a bunch of people you know. You have a shared vocabulary. You have a shared culture. You kind of are able to read the room, and you know where everyone stands, and so you can tell a joke that everyone laughs at. And I think role-playing games can kind of be like that too. And if you write the moves that work at your table, I think there's a real fear around that. But actually, like, they're going to land. And if they don't land, just change. You can move on, change them next time, and everyone says, "That's fine, Sam. Like, you're my pal. I don't care if you made a bad move this time. Like, it's fine." I didn't pay any money for your custom move that you wrote. You know, not that that's the consumer, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I will say, Masks, to its credit, like, it's one of the things I will shout out is it. Like, while that starts in an earlier mode of play with like Apocalypse World, Masks really popularized. You're going to make a lot of custom moves as you play. If you're playing a long set of Masks, you're going to constantly. Yeah, I think it is the game that I think really.
We played with it. We like forgot about a lot of moves.
Really?
But we kept getting our moments of truth and then never actually using them. Because again, like we were all people who are well versed in superhero comics. So like when it was time for someone to like have a moment of truth, it just kind of happened organically. Like we didn't need a move like a rule to say now it's time for you to have a moment of truth. But like I don't think we wrote any. I mean, part of it is I asked when I was working on Masks Retcon and I was starting to write the currently like kind of empty GM section. I asked my GM, I was like, what from the Masks game was important to you when you were GMing this game? And like, how did you approach GMing? And he was like, whenever things seemed like they were slowing down a little bit, I just thought, what wouldn't bore me right now? I was like, that was his entire GM section. And I was like, that's great and also completely unhelpful. So I don't think he was doing a lot of custom moves. I certainly wasn't writing a lot. But we obviously were playing a little bit fast and loose with the rules after a while. But that's interesting. I'm like, because when I think of custom moves, I think of Apocalypse World. I think of Dungeon World. I think of I'm trying to think of other games, right? Like, I mean, I think of games that are not games where you make custom. Like I think of Patchwork World. Like that's a game that's like all custom moves, kind of.
Oops, all bangers.
Yeah. Are there others that jump out at you?
No, I mean, Masks is the one that like everyone I know who's played any substantial arc except for you. Most people I know who've played a substantial amount of Masks, that is where they kind of cut their teeth on writing a lot of custom moves. People who played Apocalypse Worlds do, but they do less. People I know who played Dungeon World for a long time, oftentimes very rarely did, but a lot of them were people who were playing D&D of some stripe and just kept playing D&D, but now PbtA. So they like the concept of let me write a custom move. They were just taking the core moves and flavoring them. They were not doing anything that was like, hey, let me do that level of proceduralization. I think lives in it. I think it depends on your table. It lives in some spaces. I know that Mendez has a table of Masks that has been playing for like 6 years now. And when they were at we were at Metatopia, they were there to play other people's games for Metatopia, which is a playtesting convention that happens in Jersey for anybody who doesn't know. But like every break and a lot of the sessions, it was just that table of people trying to get 20 plus hours of their home game in over the course of a weekend because they were all going to be in the same physical space as each other.
Conventions at their best.
Yeah, a lot of those tables, like I know, like that's where a lot of people came through and cut it. I mean, I think like CFB, you do it. There's a lot of like encouragement to write custom moves. Like I think it depends on how the advancement goes and what the modeling is. But I think a lot of people, I think it took a long time for people to get comfortable with it. Masks, because of the tropiness of it and because of wanting different things, I think pushed a lot of people to be like, oh, let me try to create this particular moment of this particular comic book and codify that in move form in some really distinctive ways. I think the amount of media we had to draw from made it really easy for people to grok that. It could also just be my like perceptual bias. Like that is what I have seen. It may not actually be true.
I think probably as you're describing this, I'm thinking about like how there are these sort of micro generations of PbtA people, players and designers. And I think there are a lot, like obviously there were people who were there at the very beginning and like played Apocalypse World, and I don't know any of them, but I know that they exist and they are very cool. But I feel like Dungeon World for a certain wave of people was like the
Oh yeah, let
first
me clarify.
big...
Dungeon World, yes, but only on Google Plus. It's like
Well,
outside
like,
of Google Plus, it wasn't happening. It was the entirety
no,
of
but like you say that, but like John August, like screenwriter of Big Fish, was like on his screenwriting podcast, which has a ton of listeners, was like they do one cool thing at the end of every episode, and one of them was like in like 2012 or 2013 was like, there's this game called Dungeon World. It's like if you ever played D&D and we're like, this doesn't do the thing that I wanted to do. Dungeon World is the D&D that you wish was D&D. And I think that was like the thing everyone was saying, and so I think it was a lot of people's entree into Powered by the Apocalypse. It was certainly mine. And then I think like for us, like a hop, skip, and a jump later, like I think for a different micro generation of PbtA players, I think Masks was that game. I think Masks was like the next big on-ramp for a lot of people. I assume Brindlewood Bay or something is probably the one now.
I think for people around Gauntlet, yeah, it was a Dungeon World into CFB,
Yeah.
I think CFB is another, because there's a lot of different types of tech it's doing. The genre emulation is really heavy. Like there's a lot of very distinctive things to it. Retrofit also says, what wouldn't bore me is better than copying and pasting keeper principles and burying them in the middle of a book.
Yes,
also too,
honestly.
I love it. It's been an hour and a half. This has been really, really great. We're gonna end up with one more big question, and kind of like that is thinking about like in this moment in time, like people are really hesitant to make hard moves in PbtA. Like every time somebody tells me that they have played Powered by the Apocalypse and did not enjoy it, and I get into talking about what the experience was like for them, they're like, I don't know, we just could do whatever we want to do, and it becomes very clear very quickly their GM did not know how to execute a hard move. So I would love to know, for you at this moment in your life, I'll vamp for a minute to give you time to think. Like, what is the hard move you're trying to make in 2026? Again, this has been great. I want to encourage people.
I can do it. I'm ready.
Are you ready? I don't even have to vamp. Cool, excellent. You're good to go.
This at the end of every one. I've listened to some of the other ones. I knew it was coming.
So what's your hard move in 2026?
I think for me, 2026 is a year of like executing things. I had a kid last year. He turns 1 in a week and a half. And so I think I spent a lot of time, and Aaron can attest to this. I spent a lot of time, especially last year, but over the last couple years, like noodling on a lot of different games, noodling on a lot of like ideas about like what, like about my life. And I just recently, it feels like it's been like 4 years now, but I feel like I've just recently moved to Philly because time passes a little differently in new baby world, and the world is falling apart and all these things. And suddenly I'm here, and I'm still kind of figuring out what my place is. I feel like I've been figuring out what my place is in role-playing games, in Philadelphia, in my career, and a lot of things like that. And I think this is the year where it's like, to your point, like make some hard moves. Like I think the things that have worked for me in the past have always been the hard moves. Like moving from New York to Philadelphia felt like a hard move. Moving from LA to New York felt like a hard move. So I think that now it's time to actually make another hard move, really execute on some things. Like I think I've done the work. I feel like I've done the work that I need to do about like what I care about, what I want to do next, and now it's time to just do some stuff. So I hope you'll see some. My hope is that you'll see a new game from me in 2026. I don't know what it will look like. It might be a weird all ages card game that is like CCG adjacent but made for 5-year-olds. It might be a cosmic superheroes Apocalypse World riff. I think I'm trying. I always am trying these days to kind of listen to myself and let my winds guide me. But it's time to. I'm ready to make some things. I'm ready to make some moves.
Awesome, love it.
It's kind of a meta answer, but
yeah, that's good.
I'm gonna be changing my job soon. Probably I'm gonna be. No, I'm serious.
Many people on this stream might be about to change.
Quit that job.
Awesome. I love it. If people want to follow you, want to follow your work, want to find Mask Retcon Escape from Dino Island, support that, Get Ice Out of Minnesota bundle, what's the best place for them to find your work?
Sam Knight, SAMNITE, game.itch.io is where you can find my games. I'm on Blue Sky at thesamroberts.com, thesamroberts.com. I'm the only one. That's not true. It's a very common name, unfortunately. And I'm in. I think probably the best place to find me for game stuff is in Discords. I'm very active in Aaron's RTFM Discord. Only come there if you're cool. It's a cool place.
Dice Exploder. We've mentioned Dice Exploder.
Dice Exploder's great. Sam was in the chat earlier.
I'm a founding member of the Dice Exploder Discord. Not that Sam, but the other Sam. Yeah. So those are places to find me. I think that's where I do most of my game. I like to yap. So in case you can't tell. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome, Aaron. If people want to find you, or if you want to have any call to actions, what do you want to drop?
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky, Aaron MF King, and I am working on hopefully printing this year a big book of PbtA moves called When You, and that has an introduction by one Sam Roberts. So I think that's about 150 pages of PbtA moves, PbtA like micro games and stuff like that. So,
and it's
and
when
one
you
quote from
win.
Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash.
It's when you win. That's WHENEWE. Like when a sheep shows up.
Yes.
Gotcha. Excellent. Yeah, you find everything we do at Plus One EXP on the internet, except for Twitch, which you're already here if you're watching. We have a stream this Friday night of Midnight in a Perfect World, which is a GM-less game about a revolution that has recently happened in your country that cost you dearly, and dealing with the ghosts of and the fallout from that event on the anniversary of your country's revolution. And so super excited to have Zub come and run that for us here on stream. Then we're going to Gamma next week. So if you're going to be at Gamma, we're going to be at Gamma. If you're not going to be at Gamma and you're like, what's Gamma? Don't worry about it. It's the Game Manufacturers Trade Show Expo. It's a B2B event for weird indie RPG, not indie RPG, for tabletop game muckety mucks. But it's a great convention that I actually really like because it's super chill. A lot of downtime in the evenings, let it get in to hang out with great people. So if you do want to come, or if you're going to be there, let us know. Would love to see you. And if you're not, don't worry about it. You're not missing out, unless you want to come, and then it's cool. You should come.
I'll be at Breakout Con.
You'll be at Breakout?
Yeah.
When is Breakout? It's coming up too.
March 19th through the 20-something.
Man, I keep on thinking about going to Breakout, but it's right in the middle of all of the other cons I have to go to. And so,
right, AdeptaCon is the same kind of week and weekend. And
PAX East is the next weekend. GaryCon, which I will probably never go to, is the same weekend. There's just a lot of things going on. A lot of cool cons. You know what? Come to Philly, people. Go to Minneapolis.
Philly's like one permanent con. Let's be real.
Yeah. And so,
this is...
I don't know who we have next month for sure. We will know that soon. I do know that in 2 months, we will have Jeremy Strandberg, writer of Stone Top, on to talk about Stone Top and and trying to archive the entirety of Google Plus into a central spot. Also too, so come back and talk to us in April about that. In March we'll have another great guest. A lot of our guests that we want to have on are really cool, but also having health issues right now. So thanks for Sam for who was on our list, but for hopping in and being on this month also too.
Pleasure is mine.
Really great to have you, and we'll see you all next time. Bye everybody.
Bye.